Hi, I'm Dr. Otto Janke for the Empire Longevity Podcast. Some of the books that we've gone through and recommended for you, I got to put at the top of the list is going to be Dan Beitner's The Blue Zones. And Beitner has gone through the world and found communities which not only do people live in well into their 90s and 100s, it's anticipated that you will live well into your 90s and 100s, and you'll be an active participant in the family and in the community well into your 90s and 100s. A fantastic book. He has a new book coming out. It's a fantastic book, and for all of you who are interested in pushing your longevity, it's a kind of a how-to book. But if we look at today's dates and we look at people who are around now and able to be champions, winners, and be into longevity, well, a prime example is going to be the football quarterback, Tom Brady. Now, Brady has been playing forever. He is the Methuselah of football. He is 44 years old at the time of this taping, which in football years makes him ancient. he at this time, I think he's in the top 1 or 2 of oldest players of all time. And he's a quarterback, who has taken hits here. So the question always is, what has Brady done, and what does he do to give him the opportunity to still be around and playing and active? What does he do? And more importantly, what does he do that you and I can also do? See, I think what Brady does is not that far different than what you and I can do. We may not do all of them, but let's take the whole picture of what Brady does. Let's take a look at the whole picture of what Brady does, and let's start breaking this down. I think what we're going to find is that the player who many people consider to be the greatest of all time does stuff on a regular basis, and he's very, very regimented about this. He does stuff on a regular basis that, quite frankly, you and I can do. We may scale it back on the expenses and the prices of some stuff, but we can do this stuff. So let's take a look at what some of the things that Tom Brady does. First of all, he's into pliability. And pliability for him is, he defines it as pliable muscles are long, soft, and capable of full muscle pump and function. So what Brady works on is having the muscles be able to be extended and working, be strong, but not short and contracted, as many players will be. You see them with the short, hard muscles. He says, well, that's one of the reasons why they get injured. And I've read this on many different ways, but we have to start taking into consideration when a guy who's been around for as long as he has and has won at his level, we have to start considering what he does. He says that the pliability is deep force muscle work combined with contracting and relaxing the muscles. And he says, if your muscles are trained to be loose and stretched, you are much less likely to suffer an injury upon impact. He has been injured little. He has been injured, but he hasn't been out for seasons at an end. I mean, it's fantastic. It's absolutely wild how little he's been injured. He does holistic and integrative training, balance and moderation in all things, the mentality, and conditioning for endurance and vitality. He says that if applied properly, this method could increase your overall quality of life. Now, he talks about in his book, TB12, no load strength training. He doesn't lift weights. If you saw Brady walking down the street, you would say, that guy doesn't play football. He's not a big, bulky guy. So he doesn't lift weights. So what does he do? Well, 90% of his training is with resistance bands. Yes, those funny colored little bands you see hanging on the wall over there, which quite frankly, the vast majority of us say, well, I'm not using those because I'm a big guy and I'm not going to use those. I want to get big and bulky. I have to tell you the truth, over the last 2 years, 3 years, I've been using more and more bands. Because your body does not know the difference between a bulky weight, heavy weight like that, or a band. But what the band allows you to do is what Brady talks about here is the pliability. Tom Brady. What he says also is that the misconception in the athlete sphere is that when athletes get injured is because they are not strong enough. He says they're already strong enough. Take a look at them. They're strong enough. He says the muscles aren't pliable. If we look at the 5 aspects of motion in empire longevity, well, those 5 aspects are 1, cardio, 2, power, 3, 4, and 5 are going to be flexibility, balance, and posture. All of those are easily learned. A lot of this is what Brady does is simple. It's easy to do. Yeah, you may have to get a trainer to help you with this or follow up on get the book TB12. I do not have it. I listened to it. Number 6 is this. Let's start getting into the diet of stuff. He promotes anti-inflammatory responses in the body. Brady stresses avoiding inflammation. You're going to hear this often with him, of avoiding inflammation. And inflammation of the mind, body, and spirit. How cool is that? It isn't just about the physical aspects of his success and his longevity. It's about the mental, emotional, mind, body, and spirit. He says muscle dehydration decreases muscle pliability. Well, I got to agree. And as inflamed muscles are less able to lengthen and soften, dehydration, inadequate nutrition, inadequate recovery contribute to inflammation or stiff muscles. He recovers a lot, and he uses recovery as a major way for him to take hits, recover, come back and play. I don't know about you, but when I was a little bit younger, exercising, I would try to exercise every day, and I try to blast every single day. What I found very, very quickly early on was that I was not able to respond as well or recover as well. Not at my age in the late 50s, but when I was in my 20s, trying to go hard all the time, you don't respond as well because you go too hard, too much, too soon. He promotes oxygen-rich blood flow. He says younger athletes naturally have muscle pliability. It decreases as they grow older, and older athletes must work harder to maintain it. Cell oxygenation is a key component to maintaining pliability and decreasing inflammation. Once again, decreasing inflammation. Remember that inflammation is seen now, chronic, going on for a long time, and systemic, full body. Chronic and systemic inflammation is seen as literally the basis of nearly all diseases we have right now. Brady says that he has a line, of course, functional bioceramic sleepwear. He has a line of functional bioceramic sleepwear. Now, what's that? I didn't know what it was. I had to go look it up. Bioceramic is a material created by heating up a combination of 20 different ceramics and mineral oxides to, this is 3 degrees, but it must be much, much more than that. The material is then inserted into the sleepwear. It's inserted into the sleepwear. Far infrared rays from the vibration frequency of the bioceramics penetrates the skin 1.5 inches. The infrared rays then stimulate the bones, muscles, and tendons to increase cell oxygenation and muscle repair while decreasing inflammation and pain. I don't know how they came up with that, but it's kind of cool. And yes, I'm looking into getting a pair because I think that would be, I'm looking to do that too. I want to be like Tom Brady. Let's be realistic. So he does this while he sleeps. And you've heard this 3 times now. Inflammation, to decrease inflammation. What are you doing to decrease your inflammation? Proper hydration. It's massively important for you to be properly hydrated. 1, because we know that muscles stay much more pliable. 2, you can decrease inflammation. Sometimes all athletes are aware of that they need the importance of hydration. And he talks about how just massively important it is, not only on how much you drink, but when you drink too. And he recommends you don't drink half hour before eating or an hour afterwards. His eating is not that much different. So let's first of all take a look at those first couple steps. Besides the bioceramic sleepwear, his exercise is with bands. You could learn that also. It wouldn't take that much to do. Number two, and you can do it at home. Number two is he looks at hydration. So could you do those first two parts? Absolutely. It would cost you minimal to get into his game. So let's look at this. Healthy nutrition. Very important, well-known practices of eating as local as you can. We can do that. Eating vegetables and avoiding refined carbohydrates, dairy, salt, caffeine, and alcohol. He keeps all those at a minimum. He also does not eat nightshades. Nightshades are going to be for him mushrooms, eggplants, potatoes, and bell peppers. I have to say that tomatoes will be in there also. I think some of that is a book we have in which they look at leptins. I'm not a huge fan of that because there's some of these foods I totally love. But once again, it works for Brady. His diet is 80-20%, 80-20 alkaline to acidic. Very, very simple. Look it up online. You can find alkaline. The vast majority of it is going to be fresh fruits and vegetables. He does take powders, probiotics, and electrolytes that he promotes. Brain exercises. He's a firm believer in the principles of neuroplasticity. What's that? Nerve plasticity, being plastic, being able to mold and be bended and shaped. Well, he says we got to keep this flexible too, this pliable too. If we're going to be working all the time on the muscles, we got to be working on the brain too. I think that's a great idea. Absolutely great idea. And mindset, the brain must be trained as much as the muscles and body. Couldn't agree more. Brady's an advocate of mental toughness, positive mindset, and meditation. Meditation is important and a great way to center the mind and body. Couldn't agree more. Once again, can you do that? Well, yeah. I mean, you can find a whole bunch of great meditation right here on your phone, on an app, on YouTube at no charge. I do that. Brain rest, recentering, and recovery. Recovery is the final principle in the TB12 method, where sleep and diet are emphasized. Again, Brady has a rigid sleep schedule. Do you? How rigid is yours? Is yours a, well, I try to get to bed this time and I kind of get, Brady, 9 p.m., boom, to 6 p.m. So he's getting 9 hours of sleep a night. Awesome. Do you? Besides his fancy pajamas that he has, his bioceramic pajamas, Brady sleeps with the room temperature at exactly 65 degrees Fahrenheit to promote recovery. So he has found the absolute level for him. Boom, at 65 degrees. He's got the fancy bioceramic pajamas. He's in bed by this time to this time. Can I ask you a question? How difficult would that be? I understand the kids. I get that. I get that. But do you actually have a time of going to bed and making sure, bam, I'm in bed, boom. He also does not eat within 3 hours of sleep, which means if he's going to bed at 9 o'clock, that means he's done eating by 6. The most cost demanding process you have in your body is digestion. Well, if your body is going through the process of digestion, it can't get in the process of healing and recovery as well as you can, because it's taking all the time, energy to focus on the digestion. Well, Brady says, I'm gonna stop hours beforehand. I also read a part earlier on another article that if he's going to have sweets, so say for instance, he's at a party and there's cake there, he has it earlier in the day, like in the afternoon. Why? Because the big amounts of sweets, the sugars, has an opportunity to disrupt his sleep. And you can say about all of this. So first of all, let's look at all this. Is there anything in here? I mean, not the very specifics, but the generalities of them. Is there anything in here you couldn't do? Yeah, I know the bioceramic sleepwear, I know. But is there anything else you couldn't do? Could you go to an 80-20 alkaline to acidic diet? Simple. You have to spend 20 to 30 minutes on YouTube, find out what it is. Boom, the grocery store. You're already going to be there to shop. You pick up that stuff. Supplementation, not that difficult. Brain exercises, neuroplasticity, you can do that. Meditations, cost you nothing to do. Eating differently, again, and even in getting the bands, you can go to the local Walmart and pick up the exercise bands. So is there anything in here that you really can't do? And the answer is, well, no, I could actually do all those. It'd then be the process of doing it. And you may say, the biggest problem is that you're not regimented. You're not regimented like Tom Brady is. And you can tell me I don't want to be. I get it. I know. I'm the massive justifier. I will justify the crap out of everything. But the reality is this. If we want the results that Tom Brady has gotten, we're going to have to do things that Tom Brady has done to get the results that he has gotten that we want also. That's the reality. And yes, we may not be able to institute all of those because of maybe expenses or because we don't have the knowledge pack of it. But realize there's nothing that he does. There's nothing that he does that you and I also can't do. I mean, it's easy. It's the regimental of doing this. Imagine what your body would be like if you got the sleep that you need to have. That alone for you would be fundamentally awesome. That'd be incredible if we just got to sleep alone. And then add on top of that, once again, the sleep costs you nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do. Number two, we're going to add on top of that, we're going to add on proper hydration. How much does that cost you? Nothing to do. Once again, we have two fundamentally great things for you that cost nothing extra to do. Imagine what your health would be like at that time. Imagine how much more energy you'd have tomorrow. Imagine how much more you're going to get done just because of those two things. You're going to add in eating alkaline, you're eating much more fresh fruits and vegetables. And if he is going to have animal protein, it has to be wild caught, it has to be organic, it has to be this, the same stuff you would imagine he would. And then you're going to work out just a little differently. I mean, there's nothing that the greatest of all time is doing that you and I can't do. There's nothing that he does that you and I can't do. And I think that's the most phenomenal part of that. We see someone who is not the greatest physical specimen, by far not the greatest physical specimen, and we can adopt the things he does and then get even greater results for ourselves. How awesome would that be? I think it's neat. I think it's something I have to start looking into right now. And the tough part of it is the scheduling and regimentation of it. You already have schedules and procedures and regimented time in your day. You may not know it, and you may not have prioritized it to be focusing on stuff like that. I get that. I've had to go through my schedules many, many times to become much more regimented. And people say, I don't want to have that. Realize this. I focus for this. I'm going to take 90 minutes and focus on this. That then opens up the rest of my day. Because when I get into that 90 minutes, bam, I'm going to rock and roll for that 90 minutes. So I have other times during the day to have fun. Imagine what your day and days would be like. And then your weeks and years would be like. If you got a little more regimented, like the grace of all time. I mean, you think about the simplicity of all this, the simplicity of this. None of this is rocket surgery. Yes, the bioceramic pajamas. Who came up with that? But we take all of this. There's nothing that the greatest of all time is doing that you and I cannot do. We can incorporate at least a few of these things on a regular basis and get better results of us. Just think about that. How cool that'd be. I know. You and I, champions already. I'm Dr. Otto Janke. Thank you for being with me on the Empire Longevity Podcast. Let's go be a champion. We can do that.